Hi again and welcome. In an earlier video, Marvin Oka and I introduced a project we have been working on for some time, Generative Critical Thinking. In 5 subsequent videos, I addressed the question about how generative critical thinking differs from the standard critical thinking that you can learn online and from reputable and quality books, and of course, from quality higher education courses. And you can find the links to those videos in the notes below. In a nutshell, it comes down to developing our own metacognition, our ability to think about our thinking. And that's so that we can examine and challenge our own beliefs, our models of how the world works, and the narratives, the stories we use, not only to support those beliefs and models, but also the narratives which flow from those beliefs and models. When we can do that, we have the skills to direct our own development and enrichment, and, if you like, our evolution. For a moment, let's accept the proposition that there is a form of critical thinking that really is generative. Generative in the sense that you apply critical thinking to your own thinking in a healthy way, which in turn allows you to develop in a way which allows you to live more enjoyably, more effectively, authentically, consciously, and which enables you to make wiser decisions. Now, the question in the background is, why is this approach to critical thinking needed? Of course, it's easy to see why standard critical thinking is needed. Around the globe, we are currently seeing a fog of disinformation and misinformation, or rather, we're trying to peer through it. Now, let's pause and think for a moment about those two words. The Oxford English Dictionary defines disinformation as false information that is intended to mislead, deliberate misinformation. So, let's call that what it really is: lies. The dictionary also defines misinformation as false or inaccurate information. Now, admittedly, sometimes people say or print something that they genuinely and innocently believe to be true, even though it's not. If their intentions were good but they were misled, in most cases we probably really can't blame them. However, others, at times, choose to partly represent the truth. They give you some information relating to a situation, but deliberately not all of it. The result is a misleading representation of what is happening or what has happened. Politicians are expert in this. So are many business people. So might be some of your friends and relatives. Now, there are techniques too numerous to discuss here that people use to shape the truth, to control the way information is framed in order to manipulate what you'll end up believing. However, the result is that we end up in a world saturated in so-called post-truth fantasies, blatant lies, and lots of pretty much just weird stuff. All this can lead to overwhelming complexity. Uncertainty and confusion about what's really happening can lead to bad decisions, which in turn lead to systemic consequences. And now we're seeing one of the really sad phenomena that is so pervasive, and that's the massive social division based on undereducated thinking, believing lies, unquestioningly following ideologies, and outright tribalistic thinking. And as if that were not enough to sludge our way through, we have our own brains to deal with. Brains that evolved to deal with much simpler ways of living than we have now. The mechanisms, the heuristics that our brains use for making quick survival-based decisions were fine back when we had to run away from saber-toothed tigers or from people from other tribes who wanted us out of the way. But these simple processes, these heuristics, predispose us to many errors in the way we make judgments and decisions if we just rely on unconscious, inbuilt pathways. A great summary book on these problems is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Becoming aware of these inbuilt error mechanisms and adapting accordingly can save us time, energy, money, and indeed grief. Allied with these heuristics is the whole arena of biases, by patterns like confirmation bias, in which we select or even seek views that support our existing beliefs rather than challenging our beliefs. I said arena because there is a huge range of these biases that we easily fall prey to and which we use unknowingly. These heuristics and biases hijack our thinking every day. Until we have processes and skills for one, recognizing the processes in our own thinking, and two, being able to counter them, we cannot free ourselves to develop our thinking beyond where we are now. We cannot direct our own cognitive and emotional evolution. Now, governments cannot regulate or stop disinformation, lies, or misinformation. They can take some measures, but ultimately it comes down to each of us to know how to critically examine a claim and ask questions that help us make sense of things. And of course, it's not just examining what others say. The way we go about doing that is shaped by our own beliefs, our own narratives, our values, our sense-making processes. So we need to be aware of those, be willing to examine them, be willing and able to upgrade them when needed. Therein lies the difference between standard critical thinking and generative critical thinking, and why generative critical thinking is needed. Traditional critical thinking tends to focus predominantly on challenging the premises and the logical structure of an argument. Of course, this is a highly valuable skill set, and we boldly claim it is essential for informed and wise decision making. However, it tends to be outwardly focused. It can produce people who are adept at challenging and critiquing others' claims and arguments, but who neglect to examine their own. By contrast, generative critical thinking focuses on the interaction between the outer and inner aspects of how you perceive the world and yourself. It helps you evolve your level of self-awareness in how you are creating your perception of reality through your narratives. In doing this, you develop the skills and processes for making wiser decisions in life. In summary, generative critical thinking is a learnable set of skills, tools, and methods for thinking about thinking, making better informed and wiser decisions, and increasing your self-awareness and self-evolution. So it comes down to some important questions for you. Do you want to know how your beliefs, narratives, and models of the world shape the quality of your life? Do you want the methods and skills to be able to change your beliefs, narratives, and models if you discover that they've not been serving you? Do you want to have the skills to examine others' claims and arguments? And are you willing to apply those same skills to your own claims and arguments? To give you a better idea of how the generative critical thinking process works, let's follow through this diagram. Suppose someone makes a claim. Say, for example, someone says, "Oh, the Purple Party are clearly the best economic managers. Everyone knows that." First, you need to recognise whether this is just the person's belief or an inherited opinion. Regardless, it is a conclusion to an unstated argument. The first stage in generative critical thinking process is recognizing that it's a conclusion to an unstated argument. The claim is not a given truth. It requires evidence and logically structured support. Now, of course, this stage and the next three are pretty much standard critical thinking, but they're essential. Having recognized that a conclusion is being stated as a truth, you then have to either elicit from the speaker what the premises and evidence are, or if the speaker is not available or is unwilling to answer, you will have to infer what the most likely premises are. Then question them. Question the premises. Are they true? Is there evidence for them? Then clarify the relationship between the premises. Is there a clear line of evidence-based logic to the conclusion? Now, at any one of these stages, you might find the argument breaks down and can be rejected. And there's an important note here. The generative aspect begins the moment you apply these standard steps to your own thinking and question your assertions and the evidence and logical support for them. Now, beyond all of those steps, there might arise an interesting situation if, for example, you find an argument that is valid, that is, got a good logical structure, and is fully supported by evidence. That is, it is true, but you don't like it. You wish it wasn't true. It angers you, it annoys you, you wish it wasn't the case. That's when you have to start examining in depth your own thinking processes, your beliefs, your narratives that form the foundations for your judgments and decisions. That's when you become truly generative in your thinking, upgrading your views, beliefs, and stories about the world and you, directing your own development and evolution. In a more linear fashion, here are the steps of the generative critical thinking process. You might like to pause the video to give yourself time to read them. Before adopting any stated narrative on a situation as fact, recognize when a conclusion is being asserted. Identify the premises upon which the conclusion is based. Question those premises. Clarify and establish the degree to which the premises support the conclusion. Adjust, question, or continue your current view on the situation accordingly. And this might mean you have to challenge and upgrade your own view on the situation based on what you've discerned in the critical inquiry process. So, what can you take away from this session now to get a sense of how generative critical thinking can help you? Start qualifying what is being told to you pretty much everywhere. Of course, do it when it's appropriate. Not everything anyone states with conviction is a fact or based on solid premises. So, when appropriate, check claims from friends, family, colleagues, and acquaintances. Check claims from news and other media, television, radio, print, internet, especially social media, search engines, and websites. Also check claims from authorities and authoritative sources, individuals, agencies, reports, research, science, data, etc. And that's because sometimes you will hear claims from people who are expert in one field, but who make strong claims about a field that is not their acknowledged area of expertise. Their claims might be correct, but it serves to check, because in the past there have been examples of people being wrong. Recognize that all conclusions and narratives are based on assumed premises, whether true or not. Uncover, surface those premises, and inquire into their accuracy and their appropriateness. And above all, apply this critical inquiry to your own internal dialogue, the stuff you say to yourself in your head. Apply it to your opinions, views, beliefs, stories, and your narratives. We sincerely hope you have gained some helpful insights from this session. And if you would like more information now, or if you are keen to find out about how to enroll in the course now, Please use the link posted with this video to access the Generative Critical Thinking pages. Thanks for your time and for your attention.